Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. That was a crazy game down here in Washington. The Eagles end up losing this one 36-33. Their win streak is snapped. Rube, what the heck did we just watch?
We watched defense collapse in the fourth quarter, a defense that's been playing lights out during this whole 10-game winning streak. We watched Kenny Pickett, I think, do what he could. You know, it's hard to expect more than what he did. We saw Devontae drop a ball that he never drops. We saw some crazy stuff. We saw a team force 5 turnovers and lose, which has happened 5 times in the last decade. Yeah, like you said, weird game, disappointing result. It'll take a while to sort this out, but and heck, Kenny Pickett talking about getting his ribs checked out. We might see Tanner McKee Sunday, assuming Jalen could pass the protocol, but it's rare that a guy's able to play the next week. So who knows who will see a quarterback Sunday? There's a lot to figure out with this team right now.
Yeah, a ton happened in that game. We should start with that. I mean, Jalen Hurts leaves in the first quarter with a concussion. Kind of a weird situation. He gets hit at the end of a play. He almost talks his way into staying on the field, and then the referee sends him to the blue tent. Then he comes out of the blue tent, starts throwing the ball, puts his helmet on. It's like trying to re-enter the game and then gets called over. He looks really frustrated in the moment. They take him into the locker room, and eventually he's ruled out. So it's the Kenny Pickett show the rest of the way. And you're right. I mean, Kenny Pickett did some okay things, some things that were not very good, some things that show you why he's a backup quarterback in this league. But ultimately, this was a game that the Eagles had. And they should have been able to win this one. They had a lead late, and they gave it up. This defense has been so good for so long. Kind of wild to watch them give away a game late.
Yeah, up 13 going into the fourth quarter, and then take the lead and build on it with a couple field goals that probably could have been touchdowns if guys made some plays there on those last 2 drives. But yeah, it was a game that, and I guess for me, the defense is my biggest concern. And look, they lost Josh Sweat in the second quarter. Really missed him. Couldn't get any pressure after he left the game. Those last 3 touchdown drives, they looked gassed. They hadn't even played that many minutes as far as game minutes, but Jaden Daniels will do that to you. I mean, he will. You know, he was running around, converting third downs, making big throws, and they just couldn't keep up with them. I thought the Eagles' defense has been so good, especially against the pass. They just looked kind of step slow through that whole fourth quarter. Jaden Daniels threw 5 touchdowns, 3 in the fourth quarter, and they were all after long drives. I mean, not long enough because Braden Mann's kickoffs were so bad, but long drives, and you just about the last thing you expect to see from this defense.
Yeah, you're right. And that's another aspect of this game. Those kickoffs were bad, kind of shorter fields, but Washington ends up in the second half. They score on a 61-yard touchdown drive, an 87-yard touchdown drive, and then the 57-yard touchdown drive for the game winner with like 6 seconds left. Now, the Eagles also in the second half were settling for field goals, and give Jake Elliott credit for making them, but you trade field goals with touchdowns long enough, and you're going to let a team back in a game.
Yeah, those 5 takeaways, and that's great. You get 5 takeaways, but they got a touchdown off the first one, and the next 4 generated just 3 points. And 1 missed field goal. I'm sorry, 6 points, 2 field goals, 1 missed field goal, and a punt. Those are opportunities that you just. And look, everybody's got a part in that. Pickett's not a real high-powered guy. Devontae's drop was damaging. Saquon. It's a tough catch for a running back, but you like to see him make it. Either one of those gets converted, you have a fresh set of downs, you're running the clock, you're deep in Washington territory, maybe you punch it in for 6. Those 2 drops really changed the whole complexion of the game to me late when they just needed something good to happen to give the defense a break. Because, I mean, I don't know how you felt, but once the defense was on the field for that last drive, I thought the game was over. I just didn't think they could stop Washington, even with 6 seconds left, and they didn't have any timeouts. It's like Jaden Daniels was going to find a way to score here, and he did. Yeah, a lot to unpack on this one. And they were missing CJ, who got ejected. They were missing Sweat. It looked like Jordan Davis came back in.
So did Sweat, by the way.
Sweat did come back in?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, did not see that. But yeah, they just look slow to me on defense. And I think when you lose your quarterback, it affects everything. Like it just affects everybody on the team, even the defense. And obviously it changes the way Washington played the Eagles, and it changed the way Kellen was calling plays, changes everything. It's just hard to overcome that. And against a good team on the road, they almost did, but they couldn't.
Yeah, and we always talk about complimentary football. This was bad complimentary football. Like you have a game where your margin for error is that much smaller because you don't have your starting quarterback. In those situations, you need your defense to play a little better, and that wasn't the case. And I'm kind of with you. Like you look at the offense, and you have the backup in there. Things are going to be different in the passing game because you have the backup, and then they're going to be different in the run game because Jalen factors into that. And without him, I think defenses are able to play them significantly different. So we saw that in this game. And even though Saquon broke that one big one after the Jalen Hurts injury, I think for the most part, it did affect their offense, both in the run and in the pass.
No question about it. I thought Kellen was maybe a little slow to adjust to that. And look, Kenny Pickett's on your team for a reason. You trust him enough to be your backup to go in and play when something happens with Jalen. I thought it was a little too run heavy. It looked like Saquon was just running into a brick wall there with the way they were stacking the box. But I mean, look, there's a reason he's an MVP. I get that. But they just weren't getting anything. They were getting a lot of negatives there. I think he had that one first down run in the fourth quarter on one of those field goal drives. I think he had a 12-yard run. But other than that, I mean, he averaged under 2 yards a carry. I think he was 21 for 41 after the 68-yard touchdown. And, you have to trust your quarterback to make some throws. And, he made a few. He had a couple nice conversions on fourth down. The throw to Devontae was fine. I thought he had a throw to AJ that he could have caught. The touchdown to AJ was a nice throw. I think Kenny Pickett did as well as I could have hoped for him to do. I just thought Kellen was maybe a little slow to ask a little more of him.
Yeah, maybe. So from a larger perspective, Rube, the Lions win today. The Vikings are up. This loss pretty much means the Eagles aren't going to be the 1 seed. And it's a shame for them because I think there's a legitimate chance that things would have fallen for them to get it. And now that's pretty much out the door. It's still, you're looking at a division win most likely. They didn't take care of that today, but you're still talking about a home playoff game, and that's great. But any chance of the 1 seed's pretty much gone at this point.
Yeah. And they'll, barring it to collapse, and we haven't seen anything like that around here lately, they'll be the 2 seed. You'd love to see that Giants game not mean anything. You get locked into the 2 next week, and then you can rest guys and get a bye Giants week. But look, teams have won a Super Bowl taking the long route. It can be done. It's hard. It makes it harder. But I think one thing about this team is I don't think it'll bother them if they don't get the bye. They might be a little disappointed, but I don't think they'll be like this, team-wide I don't know, letdown, because now we have to win 3 games to get to New Orleans as opposed to 2. I just think they're really focused and they have the ability to kind of just prepare for the moment and deal with the moment. Now they didn't take care of business today, but for the most part this year they have. But yeah, I mean, it's less likely that they're a Super Bowl team now than I still think they probably would have been the 2 seed, even if they won this game. Certainly their path has dried up to almost nothing now. Still possible. But yeah, we'll see how they respond. We'll see how they react to this because it's a big punch in the gut, especially the way it happened, giving up a 14-point lead and another 14-point lead and then a 13-point lead and then the lead 5-point lead in the final seconds. It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. And there's some alternate reality where we're talking about, Kenny Pickett does enough to win as a backup. The Eagles have 5 takeaways. Jake Elliott hits a 50-yard field goal to win the game. There's all these other alternate universes where there's some really fun storylines coming out of this one, but ultimately they didn't get it done.
Yeah. And there's certainly, you start with how long is Jalen going to be out? You go to How much of a blow is this to the defense? And are they, can they get back to where they were for the last 10 weeks? I mean, Washington scored more points against them in the fourth quarter than they had allowed during the entire 10-game winning streak in any game. Can they run the ball if Jalen's not the quarterback? I mean, there's so many questions right now that we don't know the answer to. And heck, Kenny Pickett's health is a question too. He's getting tested for ribs. Maybe he's got broken ribs. Tanner McKee's never played in the NFL. I'm a big fan of his. He looks great in training camp, but you're putting your hopes to clinch a division against a Cowboys team that's playing better, a little better, on a guy who's never played football in the NFL. So certainly a lot of questions that the Eagles are going to be dealing with during this Christmas week.
Yeah, and we should mention this was like a very chippy game, and the Eagles got some penalties. And look, I didn't see what happened with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. There's a pool report from it. Basically, Sean Smith said he's basically taunting the opponent on the second foul. He already had a first one earlier in that game announced as his first towards disqualification. So this became his second. He was taunting the player, so that's the disqualification by rule. I talked to Reed Blankenship, who said CJ didn't say anything. I don't know. We never really saw what happened, but it's not great. Like, to lose a starting safety, and Tristan McCollum struggled. He comes in and they say they have faith in him, and I get that, but not having CJ out there was a big deal.
And I think it was McCollum that was on OZ on the one touchdown. Yeah, I mean, he's one of their better players. And I think guys like Jalen Carter and CJ have to understand that refs are going to be looking for them. These guys play the game on the edge. You love their emotion. You love their swagger. You love their feistiness. You love their edge. But you also have to be smart about it and not put yourself in a position where you're hurting the team. And no, Jalen Carter had another penalty. When you start committing those penalties and getting called for them, refs are going to look for you. They are going to, and it's not going to take much. And I mean, I thought Jalen Carter, I thought that was a totally bogus penalty. But if it hadn't been for the previous ones, maybe he doesn't get called for it. So, and CJ's the same way. They've got to. I thought this was an undisciplined team today. I mean, down to Sydney taking off 10 seconds too early on the kickoff. I mean, they've got to be smarter. They got to be more. What was it? 10 total penalties. Too many men on the field. I mean, that's not the kind of football they've been playing, and that's not championship football.
Yeah, we gave the coaching staff so much credit last week for having a nice bounce back performance, and certainly they deserved all the credit last week. But this looked like a poorly coached team, an undisciplined team, and in a game without your starting quarterback, like I mentioned, the margin for error is just so much smaller. You can't afford to do stuff like that.
Yeah, no question about it.
All right, let's go through offense a little bit. Kenny Pickett plays most of the game. Jalen Hurts, before the injury, was 1 for 4 for 11 yards. Also, 3 rushes, 41 yards. The last one, of course, he gets concussed on. Saquon Barkley, 29 attempts, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, but was not very effective in the fourth quarter, 7 for 17 in the fourth. And then the big game receiver-wise.
Really?
Yeah, you're right. Really, second half. A.J. Brown had 15 targets, 8 catches, 97 yards, and that touchdown. What'd you make of the offense, especially after Jalen Hurts went down?
Yeah, they did some good things. I thought Pickett converted those 2 fourth downs. Pickett's smart enough to know to go to AJ just pretty much every time. He got those, I think, 3 DPIs. I messaged you and said Torrey Smith would be really proud of him. That was Torrey Smith's specialty in 2017 on that championship team. I thought AJ made some really big time catches, and I think he had 1 drop, but I thought he was really good. And I get that Kellen wanted to stay balanced once Jalen left the game, but they were actually having better luck throwing the ball than running it. They were 19% on third down, 3 for 16 maybe. Terrible on third down. Converted 3 fourth downs, but there was just no real chemistry on offense. There was no rhythm after Jalen left the game. And it's not a knock on Kenny Pickett. It's just you have a guy in there who's never played. He hasn't played for anybody in over a year. I think he got benched like the last 6 weeks in Pittsburgh last year. Hadn't played here at all. Playing for a new coach, coming in the middle of the game, didn't get any reps during the week. And all of a sudden you're playing the 3rd, 4th ranked pass defense in the NFL. So I thought, considering all that, he still put 26 points up. 7 of them came when on a drive he didn't throw. But you know, if you can score 33 points losing your quarterback in the middle of the first quarter, you'll take that just about every time.
Yeah, I thought there was some good and some bad from Kenny. The interception, as bad as it looked, I mean, I think Frankie Louvu did a really nice job of dropping into that zone. Now he was probably reading the quarterback on that, and he knows the quarterback's going to throw it to 11. But I thought it was a nice play by Louvu. There was a bad sack Pickett took, a free rusher. Like, he's got to know that.
Yeah,
he's got to get rid of the football. He was kind of lucky that they didn't rule that a fumble. I thought it was the right call. I thought it was an incomplete pass. He like flicked his wrist, but I mean,
and then he did have the fumble that Lane recovered, which was another potentially disastrous play.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought there were some good, some bad. Pickett, like you mentioned earlier, had X-rays on his ribs after the game, needs more tests on Monday. I asked him if he's worried about his status. He said no, like he thinks he's going to be okay. We'll see, because I do think that matters. If he needs to be able to practice this week, if he's going to be the quarterback, those reps really help. Because we've talked about this before when they had Mariota as their backup. Like, the idea behind that was to have a similar style quarterback, because you'd imagine the game plan with Jalen Hurts versus Kenny Pickett's going to be really different.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's not an easy thing when you lose Pickett and Jalen couldn't be any more different. You lose Jalen in the middle of the first quarter when all your prep all week has gone into having Jalen Hurts out there. Well, he looked fast on those runs before he got hurt.
They were good runs for sure.
Yeah, he might have had 100 yards if he didn't get hurt. But I just have this feeling we're going to see Tanner McKee Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. A long way to go to that. Other stuff on offense, like AJ Brown, that's one of the biggest positives of this game. He was bullying Lattimore, and Lattimore got him a few times, but that drive with the DPIs was kind of fun to watch.
It was fun. That the one, I mean, I've never seen it. He literally had AJ's left arm like wrapped up against his body, and AJ's trying to catch the ball one-handed. It reminded me of that Monty Python sketch when he's like, the knight who doesn't have any arms and legs, and he wants to fight the Galahad or one of those dudes, and he's like, you got no arms or legs. How are you going to fight me? He's like, I'll bite you. AJ's there. He's holding his left arm, and he's like trying to catch it one-handed. I don't know why it reminded me of that, but it did. AJ's a beast. I mean, that dude, he's a beast. And Kenny Pickett's smart enough to know where to go with the ball when he's out there.
Let me ask you a question. When Devontae Smith dropped that ball, what was your first thought?
My first thought was he catches that 99 out of 100 times.
My first thought was Atlanta.
Yeah.
And, it a lot of similarities to the Saquon drop in Atlanta. He makes that catch, they probably win this game. Yeah.
Over.
So it's a tough drop. What did you make of? Would you have thought about going for it on, what was it, 4th and 5 at that point?
Yeah, it would have been 4th and 5. I would have thought about it. If it was Jalen, I would have gone for it. But yeah, probably not.
Because you set on the 40-yard field goal, it puts you up 5. I don't know.
It forces them to score a touchdown, which they did. I would have kicked it. You felt a little better about Jake there. I hear what you're saying. You got to like your defense to be able to keep them out of the end zone, and they didn't have a ton of time. They have one timeout left at that point. I didn't mind that.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. You had the drops on back-to-back drives. You had Saquon on that wheel route, which is a tough catch. It's like a back shoulder. He has to turn his body, but it's probably one he has to make. And then the Devontae one, in a way, like, I hate storylines like this because you got to go talk to Devontae after the game, and like, there's nothing he can say. I mean, he dropped the ball. He just dropped it, and that's what he's like. Yeah, I dropped the ball. It's not me. I got to catch it, but it's ultimately like a really big storyline in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, I would trust him the next 100 times he gets targeted in that situation. But yeah, I mean, the similarities with that Atlanta game are hard to miss.
Yeah, and I actually asked Saquon about that after the game because it is striking, and he's like, like, we have to trust in Devontae. Like, he had a really good game before that. He made some big catches. It kind of is what it is. It's unfortunate, but I don't think Devontae's confidence is shaken. I don't think their confidence in him is shaken. It's ultimately it's just a drop and it happens. It's unfortunate that it happened in that moment.
Yeah, you're right. Look, he's a great player, and they're lucky they have him. And the next 100 times he's in that situation, he'll catch it.
Yeah. Anything else offensively you want to talk about? Mekhi Becton at the end had the limp off, and Tyler Steen was getting ready to come on. I don't think it was anything significant. Grant Calcaterra had a rough game as an inline blocker.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And no targets for the tight ends in this game.
Yeah, and you got to hope I think Goddard has to miss one more game, and we don't know if he'll be back for the Giants or if they'll even need him for the Giants. I think the hope is that he'll be there for the postseason, and which is now earlier than maybe he hoped it would start. But they got to get Goddard back. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty much Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett watch all week down at the Novacare complex. We don't know. Like sometimes guys can clear the concussion protocol in a week. I think it brings up some interesting questions about how they handle this week from a game plan perspective. They have to be ready for either quarterback, you would think.
Yeah, and there's a chance Jalen doesn't get cleared till Friday. He might not be able. We might not see him. I can't imagine we'd see him on Wednesday. He'd have to be in the last phase for him to even be out there on Wednesday, I believe, or the second to last phase.
Possible he could be on like a side field. So this week, for reference, Sidney Brown had that concussion, which on the field was really scary. He was on a side field Wednesday, practiced limited Thursday, full Friday, and was able to play in this game after being listed as questionable coming in. So, I mean, that would probably be the best case scenario, but you just don't know.
Yeah, and look, if he's cleared, and they're knowing Nick and the way they look at things. I mean, they're so cautious with these things. I mean, could you see a scenario where he's cleared on Friday and they still start Kenny or Tanner? I can't imagine, right?
No. If he's cleared, he plays. Yeah.
If he's cleared, he plays. But he certainly. It's scary when your superstar, your franchise player, suffers an injury like that. But there's no way to know how serious it is. Every concussion's different. Guys progress
on the field. It did not look super serious as far as that goes. Sometimes that can be misleading. I mean, he really almost talked his way into staying in that game, which is kind of scary in itself.
Yeah, and the process worked. And look, everybody wants to see him out there, but I mean, he shouldn't have been out there. So the process did work.
Yeah, that's fair. So we'll see what happens this week. I did spot him in like the trainer's room next to the locker room with sunglasses on, so maybe a little light sensitive.
Yeah.
Or not. Maybe he likes the way the sunglasses look. I guess you can't read into it too much, but we'll kind of monitor him as this week goes on.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll talk defense and special teams and even do a Dave's Positivity Corner. We have to remember how to do that. It's been a long time since they lost the game. We'll do it all on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Back on the Eagle Eye podcast, Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro. Rube, the Commanders had 368 yards on offense, 23 first downs. They went 7 for 13 on third down, 2 for 3 on fourth down. They were 3 for 4 in the red zone. This is a good offense, but I didn't expect them to be able to do this against the Eagles.
Yeah, and a lot of what you just said was in the fourth quarter, in the last 13 and a half minutes. Jaden Daniels threw for more yards in the last 13 and a half minutes than the rest of the game combined. 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I thought the Eagles, they looked gassed, which is understandable when you're chasing that guy around the whole game, but also they only played, 26 minutes in the game? I'm not sure what final time of possession was.
It ended up being Eagles 36-18, Washington 23-42.
So they only played 23 and a half, 24 minutes. Jaden Daniels does that to a lot of people. I mean, he's really good.
Snaps, which is a lot in 23 minutes.
It is. And maybe that's part of the problem. I thought they looked gassed in the fourth quarter, and they started doing uncharacteristic things. They missed some tackles late. Thought they had coverage issues. Some of this could have been related to, I'm sure a lot of it was related to CJ not being out there, but they just couldn't stop them. The last 3 drives, they needed one stop and they couldn't get it.
Yeah, and it's kind of shocking based on what we've seen the last couple of months. And this is such a young defense. I do kind of wonder if this shakes them at all. It shouldn't. I mean, they've been good for 2 months now, over that, more than that. I mean, but with a lot of younger players, you wonder if this could have some roll down effect. Now, I don't know if it will, but that's kind of my first thought is they better make sure this doesn't snowball at all.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, there's no real. I mean, Slay's like the veteran leader on that side of the ball. BG's gone, Fletch is gone, but they seem very focused. They seem like they're very mature. Like they handle adversity, they handle things. Certainly, when they lost those early season games to the Bucks and the Falcons, they and Cooper DeJean wasn't even playing yet at that point. But I think they've navigated through some adversity, so I feel like they'll handle it well. But you're right. Look, it's a young group. A lot of these guys have never experienced this. Some did last year. Some disappointing losses at the end of the season. I'm more concerned with just the way they played, I guess, than how they'll respond. There's not a lot of guys who can look. You can't tell Cooper Rush go out there and play like Jaden Daniels did, or Drew Lock, who I guess they would face on the last day of the season. So you're not going to face a lot of guys who have the skill set that Jaden Daniels has, which, by the way, he was going to see twice a year for the next, I don't know how many years. It's going to be quite a matchup, but I think they'll be okay. I feel like they'll be okay. I still feel like they're a really good defense, but yeah, I'm curious to see how they do respond.
Yeah, it's a good test for them. That 4th and 11 from Jaden Daniels was unbelievable, and that's the kind of plays he can make. Those are backbreaking for a defense, and we've seen it on the other side. Jalen's been really good in some of those situations, just scrambling around and picking up yards that aren't really there, and that's what Daniels did to them today a little bit.
Was that the 30-yarder?
Yeah, it ended up being 29-yarder on 4th and 11. I mean, that's a killer.
I thought the stats called it a 30-yarder, so I'm gonna have to change all my stories.
Sorry, I think they changed it unless they changed it back.
Okay, but in any case, yeah,
his long was a 29-yarder.
He put so much pressure on the defense in so many different ways, and the defense did some good things. I mean, 5 takeaways, can't argue with that. Although they didn't lead to that many points. When Reed Blankenship had that pick, I'm like, that was too early. Like they left him, and then I think they went 3 and out after that. But yeah, I still think this is a good defense, and we'll see. I mean, we'll find out Sunday.
Well, no, after the interception was
they got a field goal.
Devontae drop. Yeah. But yeah, at that moment though, you thought, okay, Eagles get the ball back with 2 minutes and 51 seconds left. How many times have we seen them just kill? Heck, they 10.5 minutes last week on the final drive of the game. They got it with just about 3 minutes left. You'd like to see them kill it, but without the starting quarterback, it's a little different.
Yeah. Although, I mean, if Jalen threw that, does Devontae catch it? Maybe the ball's coming at you differently. They throw a different spiral. I don't know, but I mean, I don't want to pound on Devontae because he's won more games for this team than he's lost, certainly by a long shot. But I would have loved to have seen how it played out if he caught that ball, get a fresh set of downs.
Is there anything else you want to talk about with this defense? Obviously a weird game. Missing CJ was a big deal. Slay got beat on that deep ball to Dami Brown, and then seeing Quinyon Mitchell get beat. I want to see that on tape. I think maybe it was like a double move, maybe a sluggo or something.
Yeah, and then there's they haven't pressured that well. I think they have 4 sacks the last 3 games. Nolan had another one. That's 6.5 for him. He's really having a nice stretch here, but. And like we said, Sweat left the game for a bit. Obviously, we don't know if they'll have. You would think they'll probably have Huff back Sunday. BG's not coming back, but certainly some questions to answer as far as pass pressure. They were in a good place, I thought, for a while, but the last few weeks they have not generated as much pressure as you'd like to see.
Yeah, looking at the snap counts, Nolan Smith had 56, Jalix Hunt had 36, Josh Sweat 31. He had that ankle injury, so he missed time for that. And Charles Harris ended up playing 7 snaps after the ankle injury. So he'd only played 4 in the previous 3 games. So they don't want to play him, and they had to in this one.
Yeah, if you're watching, he's number 95. He was a former first-round pick of the Dolphins back in 2017, maybe. first-round pick of somebody, and he's kind of like one of those last guys on the roster that it's a last resort to play him, and they had to. Certainly pass pressure is something that they've got to get figured out.
Yeah. I'm looking at the other snap counts here. These are initial snap counts from Pro Football Focus. Cooper Jean ended up playing 62. Nakobe Dean played 58. He had to come out for a little bit. Oren Burks was in there. Good work by the Eagles sideline to like get the green dot to Zach Bowen when he went out that pretty quick. Tristan McCollum played 31 after CJ played the first 36. I think that's just about it. All right, Rube, I think that's all I have on the defense. Let's go to special teams. I guess the good in this is that Jake Elliott made some field goals, but they put their defense in some tough positions in this game with field position.
Yeah, Braden, man, and I get that it was cold and the ball doesn't travel too far, but my goodness, I haven't worked out their average field position, but his kickoffs were, they were routinely starting drives at the 40, 45. He had one that didn't even get in the landing zone, which is automatically on the 40. It was one of the better ones. It was bad. I think he's been pretty good at it. It shouldn't have been. I get that it's cold, but it shouldn't have been that much of a difference. His kickoffs were, look, you take that off. That's a good offense. You give them an extra 20 yards to start every drive. Came back and really bit them. I thought Braden Mann was terrible. Yeah.
Now I will give him credit. He had a nice punt down deep, and on one of the field goals, he did a great job of holding it. It was a bad snap, and he got it off. But overall, special teams not that great in this game, left a lot to be desired. But Jake Elliott finally made that 50-yarder. That's good.
Yeah, he missed a 56-yarder, which is a tough kick. But look, Nick thought he could make it, sent him out there for it, and obviously didn't go well. And he's a 70% kicker from 56 and out, like in his career coming into this year. So it was encouraging that he made some other kicks. He made the rest of his kicks, but the long range ones and the 50-yarder looked really good. I thought it was fine. The 56-yarder was short, which you don't really ever see with Jake. Look, he's their best option, and he'll be their kicker the rest of this year, and then we'll see.
I thought Dan Quinn did some weird stuff at the end of that first half. He waited to call a timeout, and then the Eagles ended up kicking, or at least like trying to get that field goal.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Yeah.
Dave's positivity corner. We'll just go back and forth real quick because there actually were some positives in this game. It's not like it was a terrible game. It's when they almost won. Give me one positive. And for people who don't even know what the heck we're talking about, because they've been winning for so long, we used to do this when the Eagles weren't very good and they'd had these losses, and we'd say, well, we have to have some positivity. We do this at the end of losses. It's just that, this year we haven't really had to do it very much.
Yeah, I'll start with Nolan Smith. Had another sack, had 2 fumble recoveries. What else did he have? He had a hurry, 3 tackles. Every game he's making a splash play. He's really, and he's a guy that's going to recover a lot of fumbles just because he's just around the ball and he's quick and he's physical. He's really become a very good player.
That's a good point about the fumble recoveries. In general, I think that was a positive. They get 5 takeaways in this game, and like the overthrow that CJ catches is a kind of an easy play in a way, but then the PBU from Slay to Reed, and then the forced fumbles, they were really trying to punch the ball out. Cooper Jean on that one, that was nice for him to get his first one. He was going after the ball. I like that.
Yeah. 5 turnovers is great. To lose a game with 5 turnovers is rare. I think the NFL is 73-5 in the last 10 years. Coming into today, once I could finally get StatHead working, we both had issues getting StatHead working. Really, nothing's worked today. The laptop's not working. You expect to score more than 10 points off 5 takeaways. The last 4 takeaways netted, 13 points, not 10 points. Last 4 netted 6 points. You need to do better than that, but it was good to see him get them. Yeah,
that's the complimentary football we always talk about. You got to help out the other units, and they didn't do that today.
Right. I thought, Yeah, go ahead. Is it your turn?
Another positive for you.
Mekhi Becton is really good. I know he got a little banged up at the end there, but man, he's fun to watch. He's just a earth mover, and they gotta find a way to keep him around.
Yeah, they're gonna have some tough decisions this offseason, and some guys they really do want to sign, you would think, and he's one of them for sure.
Yeah.
I'll give you AJ Brown, just really good. He's uncoverable at times, and 15 targets is a lot. I understand why he had 15 targets in this game. There was a point where Kenny Pickett was like, hell, AJ Brown's down there somewhere, and I like that. And he had all those yards, but he also had 68 yards in penalties on balls targeted to him.
Right. He had over 150 combined penalty and receiving yards. He was the offense with Pickett in there. I don't have a whole lot of other positives.
Well, Saquon, obviously 150 yards. The long one was big. He now has 4 rushes of 65 plus yards this year, which is absurd.
It is. He's only the third player to do that. I believe it's AP and Jim Brown. So he's in pretty good company. Boy, you would like to see him be able to get him going in the second half. It just wasn't happening. There wasn't anywhere to run. I mean, they had like 10 guys in the box.
Yeah.
There was one play, the Eagles had 12 guys in the box.
That didn't work out well.
No.
The only other thing I had, corgi races at halftime. They were good. That was entertaining.
What was it?
Corgi races.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have video?
No, I didn't take video.
It didn't happen then.
I was too enthralled by the action on the field.
Okay. So it's been a good stretch for halftime shows.
It has been. How cold did I look on pregame?
You look cold. I actually texted Dave before he even started because we have like the feed coming in. I was like, man, you do not look happy out there.
Well, it was funny because when I first walked out there, me and Clark, you're standing in the sun and we're going, this isn't so bad. Then an hour later, you're feeling it. And I'm feeling it right now. I'm in an open air booth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Probably see my breath a little bit. Yeah, it's cold.
Well, I have a safe drive back and disappointing one, but we'll see how they handle it.
Yep. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. If you have a question for us, it's eagleeye@NBCUni. That's NBCUNI.com. You have the QR code on the screen. Any final words, Rube?
Just drive safe.
I will try that. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll be back with Eagle Eye on Tuesday to get ready for the next game and finish breaking down this wild one. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.